Hi guys, welcome to today's episode of Stocks to Watch. The stocks which I had discussed day before yesterday, some of them performed really good. Out of them, only two did not perform it, and it's still there hovering around near our entry zone. I'll be, wrapping all of them. If you guys look at Aarti Industries, it did not hit my, entry point. However, the ones who bought it at the current price or the ones who were holding it, you guys would have witnessed a real good, nice move. And the move was somewhere up to 500 bucks. So basically, you guys printed somewhere around 4 to 5%. That is the first stock which we had scouted day before yesterday, and this did perform nice. I would still wait for a retracement to somewhere around 480s or 470s. If it tries to mitigate that, I will still try to enter. However, if it does not, I am easily bullish on this, and I expect this to go somewhere around 540 to 550 as long as the market stays bullish. So this scout was a good one, and this was a good pay for the ones who were holding it already, and the ones who did not or who could not enter, just like the way I couldn't do it. It's fine, we'll find up a different setup. If we try to look at alkyl amines, it did trigger our entry zone, and it did react quite nice from there. The entry was not that impulsive, and if you look at the current price action, it's trying to just consolidate near the same zone, and it's just trying to mitigate around the same zone. And I think the risk is quite reduced here, and we do not have much to risk here, since I already said that this might be a little tricky to play out. The setup is not faulty anymore. I firmly believe that this might throw up huge. And at the same time, if you guys look, it's still near the same entry zone which we had predicted around. And if you guys have entered around this zone, then remember the risk is somewhere around 1.5%. Let it just throw up and blow up. I'll just wait for that, and let's see how this plays out. Our third scouted stock was Indraprasth Gas, and it's currently near our entry zone. And like I said, that it might fall down a little furthermore. It did. What can we do now? From an investment perspective, like I said, it happens to be a good swing. From a risk to reward perspective too, you guys are just gonna risk 10 points out or 10 pips out with a reward of somewhere around, I think, 70 pips. So this happens to be fine as long as the setup is valid. If the setup gets invalidated, you guys know that your stops are around 2%, so we'll just get out here. This is not did not move at all, and this was just trading near our entry zone, so it was down 0.61%. Our fourth scout was a massive banger, and this was a complete carnage call out. You guys can see that I was bullish on India Cement, and the reasoning was quite right, that the reaction for India Cement was basically that it was consolidating, moving up, consolidating, moving up. So this did play out, and it was getting compressed here. A huge move was seen in this, somewhere around a 5% move in a day, which for some people is quite hard to catch. However, our scout was quite great over here, and it did fetch somewhere around 5%. So overall, this was a great setup. I still think that it's going up somewhere around 240, or it can still move up more. So it has that entry and location, which was correct. And at the same time, when it comes to it going up more further, I think it has a lot more room to go up. So India Cement was another good scout. Coming back to the agricultural space, I could not predict this. I thought that this is gonna move further, and I would get my entries here, which was a safer one. The ones who were already holding this, or the ones who were already into this, I would like to congratulate you guys for holding this, for the fact that it has moved 3%, and it, I think, went somewhere around 4%. So this too gave a good move. We might see a little more retracement here. So if you guys are looking to book profits here, you guys can partially do it. Our last scouted stock was NFL. This moved up nuts, and overall setup was quite nice. I was waiting for my entry to get triggered over here, and I usually prefer good setups with the entries being quite discounted. If I do not get that, I usually do not buy those stocks. The ones, like usually said, the ones who were already inside this and the ones who entered right at price today, you guys would have witnessed a real nice move of somewhere around 3.5%. If you guys have booked profits, it's fine. If you guys haven't, wait for 75 to get nurtured, and then you guys will be able to book somewhere around 8 to 10%. Coming back to the scouted stocks, out of 6 stocks which I had scouted day before yesterday, 4 of them played out really nice. Two of them are still near our entry zone, and I believe they should play up nice as well. Moving on to the stocks which I've scouted for tomorrow, there are three stocks or four stocks which I've scouted, okay, out of which some has some probable setups which can move up, and some, is somewhere around, somewhere around the zone of consolidation, and at the same time the setup is a little tricky to play out. By tricky, I just mean that if you enter right now, the probability of it going up very soon might just fade out little, or might just take a little more longer. So you guys need to keep that in mind. Avanti feeds has a good pace up setting, okay, but the if you guys see, the trend is not consolidating near the whole place. It's just going up and fading out with huge wicks around. So I do not want you guys to enter such a setup where you guys simply get stopped out. So you guys can surely, observe this and keep this on your radar. This risk over here happens to be 2% as well, and this is from again the same swing perspective. So you guys can keep this on radar. If this moves, this can surely cover up a huge move. If this does not, just keep it on radar and do not initiate any entries in Avanti feeds, like I've said. GSFC is the first setup which I will look to buy, and I have not prepared an entry as of now. I'll look to buy it somewhere around this zone. If I can get it somewhere around 184 to 183, this might be the zone where I might just enter, because I'm expecting something like this to happen. The overall base looks fair enough, however, it is a smaller base, but still it's fine from a 1 hour perspective, and from a basic swing perspective, I believe the base is intact. And once it mitigates this level out by taking out the fair value gap which it has created, I believe that this can move up huge. Coming back to our third scouted stock, which is Ease My Trip, it is in a basing zone, and the base is completely not valid, okay. So this has just started to consolidate. If we see something like this happening over here in Ease My Trip, then it's going to be really nice to see this. And if we witness that, or this, I mean the consolidation, then it's surely going to be a good entry. Make sure that your stops are somewhere around 38.20 or 38 exact, because there will be some liquidity wicks out here which will grab out some liquidity and take your stops out. So make sure that you have your stops placed somewhere around 38 or 38.20. And do not risk a lot. Make sure that whenever you take an entry, no matter for these setups which I call out or for other setups, make sure that whatever entries you guys take, the risk is quite less and the reward, or basically the upside, is quite more. I do not usually like chasing stocks which has already given a good thrust to the upside. So that is how I usually play out. IDFC. So these bank stocks are moving quite nice, and I believe we are witnessing a very small base again here as well. Let it move, let it consolidate more. If you guys again talk about entries, then I would just talk about, or I would just place my entries over here. So if I see 116 or 116.90 or 116 getting triggered or getting hit, I might enter this. I'll still wait. It's not that if it comes down here tomorrow, I'll just enter. I still would wanna watch the trend first, watch how the price is exactly behaving. So the price action and the price behavior will be quite important for us to magnify whether might move up or not. And at the same time, when I talk about the risk part, if you guys are entering somewhere around here 116 or 16 is 16.85, I'll just draw the long position so you guys can probably try to understand exactly what is going to be my risk. So my risk would not be more than 1%, or more than 1% or a half. So it's just like a 1.5 hour risk, and the reward over here should be till here. So why am I expecting this to retrace? Happens to be the reason that if it's building a strong base, then it might just retrace and just start consolidating. That is what I would consider and call out as a stronger base. If I do not see a good base, I might just not enter this. Motilal was a scout which I just made it today, and during the market hours only, it did pump quite nice. Why am I going with Motilal is because this is a little volatile stock. So stay with that and understand the fact that it is a little volatile, and it threw up quite well while I was tracking Motilal. It was trading somewhere around 1135. It went up to 1163, probably somewhere around a 30 pip move, which was somewhere around 3%. now the fact for Motilal is that it is quite important that we just observe the price action of Motilal. Why? Because it might do the same thing of consolidating again, huge fair value gap here, a complete imbalance. So it might just try to touch this zone out or to mitigate this zone out. Once it mitigates this, I honestly do not know that whether it's gonna react from here, retrace down a little more or not. So yes, I am expecting an upside here. From an entry perspective, I would just look to enter here. I mean, this is where my stops are gonna be. This is where my entry might be. So around this zone of 1146 to 1130. So yeah, I'll just enter here and I'll wait for this to play out. My reward over here stays a little less, so it's going to be, you know, a 1:2 risk to reward ratio over here. But yes, this looks quite achievable within a day, so this can be real fast. It can either take out your stops very fast, or it can even take out the targets which we've set very fast as well. So this is this. Just a second. Okay, so yeah, coming back to our last scouted stock, which happens to be Tata Chemicals. I have already entered this. Okay, I have entered it somewhere around 968.90. That happens to be my average. I have already entered this. If it comes down here, I'll, you know, try to average this down a little more. My risk over here is quite calculated that it is going to be somewhere around 1.83. However, if I try to average it around here, I'll just try to increase the risk here, and I'll try to make it a little more wider by prolonging it to 2.47, because you know the average price will get reduced, so my entry is going to be somewhere around 965. Accordingly, I'll just be reducing my risk and try to widen up a little. Okay, so from a risk perspective, I would say Tata Chemicals is fine as long as if you can average it over here. I do not know how the opening is going to be tomorrow. It might just, you know, try to take out some liquidity over here. If it does it, then it's well and good. However, if it doesn't, then we'll just try to wait it out. And on top of that, you guys need to understand one thing: the upside over here looks quite feasible, and this is achievable. At the same time, from a risk to reward perspective, just look at the base which this has made. This is a complete 10 on 10 entry which I usually look for. The base is valid. It might retrace again. Once it is completed or done with the retracement part, I'll just like I said, I would just try to average it down over here. If this gets topped out, fair enough. I do not have any regrets, because I was just, you know, following my setup which I usually have, and the imbalance over here looks very good, filled with a lot of fair value gaps. So everything is fine. I easily expect this to throw up somewhere around 8%, and my risk over here is somewhere around 1.7 to 2%. So overall, these are gonna be the playouts for tomorrow, which happens to be 29th of November, sorry. And I believe there are some setups which is a plus setup, like Tata Chemicals. Motilal, I wouldn't suggest you guys. I still believe IDFC can come out to be a B plus setup, and from grading setup, I would say GSFC can be a plus setup if it comes down to 183 or 184. This is it for today's update. In the episode of Stocks to Watch, I've discussed about the stocks you guys can watch out for tomorrow. I'll see you guys in tomorrow's update, and I'll come up with how these stocks performed which I've scouted for tomorrow. Till then, take care and have a safe trading day tomorrow.